Talking with a lot of different customers recently, one common pattern that comes up is that when most teams think about infrastructure as code, they really picture, doing things like provisioning VMs, spinning up a Kubernetes cluster, different networking components. But what if there was a way to also manage your complete API platform in or using infrastructure as code? Right? The API platform is typically a very critical part in your tech stack. It's also, typically exposed, right? So being able to actually manage this as infrastructure as code or being programmable is very, very important. A lot of organizations as well, I see, are doing a lot of API management manually, right? So one team, or they're actually fragmented. So one team is, tweaking settings within AWS for a specific deployment. Other teams are fiddling with different gateway configurations in Azure or applying different governance policies in GCP. And what this actually leads to is a recipe for disaster, right? You have inconsistencies, drift, compliance risks, right? And because you don't have this consistent experience, it actually leads to slower time to market. And the customers that I speak with, they all kind of want the same thing. They want to be able to have consistency across all environments, right? If you have a multi-cloud strategy, you typically want to have this across all different clouds, or we also support on-prem. And they want to be able to automate things, right? So humans very prone to making errors. I know that more than anybody else, right? And then they also want a repeatable, scalable way of being able to do all these different processes. And that's where the Kong Konnect platform and our support for Terraform can really come into play here. So with Kong Konnect, we provide really a modern, centralized API management platform. And we, within the last year, we've actually released our dedicated cloud gateway option. And what that actually means is that you can deploy your API management platform and gateways across any cloud. So like AWS, GCP, Azure. And this is completely managed for you, right? So all of the operational overhead of having to manage this yourself, all the headaches around that, we take the burden away from you, right? And one key point to make here when it comes to dedicated cloud, and the reason we call it dedicated cloud gateways, is it's completely dedicated to you, right? So it's not shared across any other, users or customers. It's completely dedicated to your specific organization, right? So what that means is just things like the consistency, speed, reliability when it comes to that platform, right? So today, what we're going to look at is how we can actually all set this up, right, within Kong Konnect, and how easy it is to actually manage all of these different deployments, so deployments of the gateway, but also the configuration for our API, right? So in this setup, right, if you're not too familiar with Kong Konnect, we really split it up into two separate layers. So we have our management plane layer, right, and then we have our data plane layer. And the data plane layer, these are the gateways that will be processing all of our API traffic. And because of dedicated cloud, we can actually manage these for you. So as I mentioned, AWS, Azure, GCP, they can be deployed across different regions. You can pick and choose how many gateway deployments you want. We can also do things like auto scaling, right? So you can automatically scale your API infrastructure. And for all of these different components, right, within the Connect ecosystem, they can actually be managed as Terraform as code. Right. So in the kind of very short demo I'm going to show you right now, I'm essentially just going to run a very, very simple Terraform command. And it's going to set up things like, a gateway in AWS, a gateway in Azure, or APIs, right, using this infrastructure as code. So I do have a GitHub repository that I'll provide in the post as well. But just get started, right? So let's sort of navigate over to our GitHub repository. So we have our Terraform files here on the left-hand side, right? So from here, I'm just going to run a very simple Terraform init. And then I'm going to run a Terraform apply. And just running these two commands and accepting this here, I can see that it's creating the different resources for us, right? So it's creating our control plane, or centralized control plane. It's setting up the gateways for us in AWS and Azure in a specific region that we choose. And it's setting up our APIs as well as our policies. So if I come back over here, and I navigate to, our Connect control plane. What I do is a refresh here and search for that new control plane that I just configured. I can see that it's actually setting up the gateways for you, right? So it takes a couple of minutes, go grab yourself a cup of coffee, but we can actually see that it's setting up these gateways for us, right? So we can see that it's in the west of US West 2 for Azure, and it's in the eastern region in AWS as well, right? But we can pick and choose what regions, as well as more regions, to be able to deploy this for you. And additionally, we can specify autopilot, which does the automatic scaling for you. And we provide the public access endpoints as well, right? So each region, right, will get its own DNS, so public edge DNS, as well as a global DNS, right, that can do latency-based load balancing as well. We also provide another option, which isn't shown here, but we can actually manage this. If you want to keep this completely private, we can support that as well. So that's the gateway deployment, right, across multiple clouds. But on top of this, we can actually manage our API configuration, right? So here we have deployed our APIs. So it's a very simple echo service, right? We can deploy the routes as well. And you can also see the plugin configuration, right? So here we've also applied our rate limiting policy to this API. So, within a couple very short commands, right, we have deployed our gateways, we've exposed it, we've applied or published our APIs as well as some policies here, right? And what this really matters, right, or where this really matters is being able to provide in an automated way a consistent experience, right, for deploying your APIs and your API policies across different clouds, different regions. The speed here is key as well. Being able to launch APIs faster, quicker time to market, scalable, being able to audit everything, compliance, security, right? All of these different things we can provide out of the box and automate in a very, very consistent way. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know and get in touch if you really want to learn a bit more. But thanks for listening.